Well, good afternoon. We're here at the State Emergency Operations Center in our response to approaching Hurricane Milton. We have Kevin Guthrie, Florida DEM, Jared Perdue, Florida DOT, Dave Kerner, Florida Highway Patrol, Major General Haas, Florida National Guard, and Director Roger Young from Florida Fish and Wildlife. Hurricane Milton is expected to make landfall on the west coast of Florida as soon as Wednesday evening. The storm has moved a little slower than projected, but remember, don't get wedded to the cone. There will be impacts far outside the cone, and these cones can shift. And so there's not an approximation that you can hang your hat on about where this storm is actually going to make landfall. All folks on the west coast of the Florida Peninsula should be prepared for potential major impacts. We have made a pre-landfall declaration request from FEMA for support, and the federal government has approved a portion of our request for pre-landfall items, and we expect the remaining parts of our request subsequent to landfall for debris and individual assistance once the storm hits will also be approved. We currently have 51 counties under a state of emergency. As of 3 o'clock, Milton has strengthened not just into a major hurricane, but a Category 5 hurricane, and not just a Category 5 hurricane, but a very strong 175 mile per hour sustained wind Category 5 hurricane. Now, there's a lot of uncertainty about what is going to happen in terms of this track. It is predicted that this will weaken, but it was not predicted that it would get this strong to begin with. So we can hope and pray that it does weaken. But as of right now, this is a ferocious hurricane. It is currently a little less than 700 miles southwest of Tampa. Storm surge watch has been issued for the Florida Gulf Coast from mainland Monroe County to the Dixie-Levy County line. Possibility of 8 to 12 feet of storm surge is forecast from the Anclote River to Englewood, including Tampa Bay. 5 to 10 foot peak storm surge is forecast from Yankeetown southward to the Anclote River and from Englewood southward to Bonita Beach, including Charlotte Harbor. And those numbers can change, and they can go up in certain areas depending on how the storm ultimately approaches the Florida Peninsula. Hurricane watches have been issued for portions of west central Florida and the Nature Coast. Tropical storm watches extend further south and north through southwest Florida and the Keys and along northern Florida. The Florida Division of Emergency Management is actively addressing storm-related resource requests. They're currently in the process of fulfilling 850 missions. They've deployed everything from sandbags to shelf-stable meals to tens of thousands of water bottles to thousands of tarps. We've already sent truckloads of food and water to Central Florida in preparation for points of distribution site subsequent to the storm hitting. We're also coordinating the deployment of more than 2,000 feet of flood protection systems and prioritizing critical infrastructure like hospitals, wastewater treatment facilities, and electrical infrastructure. We have generators deployed to support special needs sheltering. We also have Starlinks deployed in areas that have asked for that. More than 200 ambulances and more than 30 paratransits are in Central Florida, ready to support first responder operations as appropriate. State of Florida is amassing fuel reserves ahead of Milton and staging it to be utilized as needed. Those quantities include 415,000 gallons of diesel, 389,000 gallons of gasoline, and there is, as I mentioned this morning, an additional 1.5 million gallons of both diesel and gasoline that are en route to the state. Now, there is currently no fuel shortage in the state of Florida. Fuel continues to arrive at Florida ports. However, there are long lines at some gas stations, and because you've had a run on gas, there have been gas stations that have run out of fuel, but they are being resupplied with the fuel. So we're going to continue to ensure that we have fuel coming, but they're still coming with the ports. We have some coming on the ground, so people can go. You may be in a line, but if your gas station runs out, there's going to be more fuel on the way. As I've mentioned, we have ramped up support for county debris removal operations. We're working this mission to supplement their mission 24/7 around the clock, and we're going to continue to do that all the way until it is no longer safe to do so. Please, local officials, these vendors, there's been vendors that they don't necessarily do, and then when there's some sunlight and people see they're not doing, then they start to work really hard. We got to get this, as much of this taken care of as possible. I know with Kevin and with Jared putting the state assets to supplement, it has made a really significant difference. We want to continue to do that. Those barrier islands like Pinellas, Manatee that are under evacuation orders, people obviously should heed those, but once that deadline passes, we're still going to have the debris removal operations ongoing all the way until we start to hit tropical storm force winds. So that's all the rest of today through the night, all day tomorrow, most likely into the beginning of Wednesday morning. So I appreciate all the effort that's gone into that on the state. We have deployed just on the state side to assist with the federal, with the local debris mission, over 300 dump trucks to help with debris. And in the last 36 hours, state assets have been able to do 12,000 cubic yards of debris removed from communities and brought to landfill. That's 663 total loads. So that's been a good mobilization. It will make a difference, but we need to keep doing that to mitigate the harm that could happen once the storm goes. Florida National Guard, State Guard, additional FDOT personnel, and Florida Highway Patrol are all engaged in that debris mission. For the storm, we have 5,000 National Guardsmen that have been mobilized, and we will have, before the storm hits, another 3,000 National Guardsmen that will be on duty. We're also deploying major heavy equipment to assist with debris removal, and of course, National Guard will be a big part of any search and rescue that needs to happen, as well as helping set up our points of distribution. These debris and landfill sites are open, not just from state assets or from the local debris contractors, but for private individuals and citizens. And so if you've got a pickup truck, you can load debris up. We want you to go and do that. I know we've had issues with those sites being being closed when they should be open 24. We've opened them when we've seen that, but let's keep this going until it's no longer safe to do so. We're also coordinating the evacuation of pets from Pinellas, Manatee, and DeSoto counties to Walton County's temporary emergency animal shelter. Obviously, we expect Floridians to take care of their own pets, but you've got some of these pets that are in shelters, and we don't want to see them abandoned in areas that are very, very dangerous. We're also delivering a 2,500-gallon water tanker to Suwannee County Animal Control and coordinating veterinary assistance post-landfall for Hillsborough County. So the linemen that are being pre-staged, as is our practice in Florida, we will have over 30,000 linemen. Many are still en route. Some of them are coming from as far away as California. You still have ongoing major power restoration missions in states like Georgia and North Carolina. That has taken a lot of resources, but all of our companies are committed to utilizing mutual aid, and so you're going to end up having over 30,000, which is a massive number of folks to be staged. And of course, we're anticipating significant power outages, and so it's important that we do that. We have hundreds of state search and rescue personnel embedded in potential impact sites along the West Coast to begin immediate rescue operations as soon as the storm passes. We've established a temporary base camp at Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg to support ongoing operations, not just with the current debris mission, but also post-landfall first responder missions. So you should have a plan, and you should be executing your plan, particularly if you're on the west coast of the Florida Peninsula. These evacuation orders have gone out in many of those places. I know more will be coming in areas that have not yet done that. Now's the time to do it. Storm's not going to hit today. Storm's not going to hit tomorrow. We may start to see some bad weather sometime on Wednesday morning, and then obviously we're anticipating sometime Wednesday evening for the storm to make landfall. So please, you do have time to get out, so please do it. Please execute that plan now at this point if you are in one of those danger zones. Gas, I know a lot of people have been filling up their tanks. You have seen some lines in places. I mentioned the fuel. Massive amounts of fuel are being brought in, but make sure you don't want to get caught on an interstate if you don't have gas in your tank. That's not going to be good, especially when so many people are using that. Some people may not know their evacuation zone. If you want to know your evacuation zone, go to floridadisaster.org/know to determine if you are in an evacuation zone. Obviously, a lot of people in the Suncoast part of Florida just went through Hurricane Helene. We saw a lot of storm surge, so I think most people have a good sense of that, but maybe not everybody knows that. So floridadisaster.org/know. Again, keep your eyes out, keep your ears out for any of these evacuations. I know a lot of the counties have already issued that. I think you're going to continue to see some more evacuations. Already we have Charlotte, Citrus, Hernando, Hillsborough, Lee, Manatee, Pasco, and Pinellas that have issued mandatory evacuations for some of their zones. As I mentioned this morning, tolls in West and Central Florida and Alligator Alley are suspended, and they will continue to be suspended until it's no longer necessary. Florida Department of Transportation is opening roadway shoulders as necessary to facilitate evacuation and ease congestion on I-4 and I-75. So the shoulder is completely open all the way until I guess it's in SR 417 in Central Florida from Tampa on I-4. That shoulder's open. The shoulder started to be open from the north on 75, I-10 working south. It should be completely open within the next hour. And so those are two roads that can typically have traffic anyways. Right now, the usage on I-75 is about 90% more than what would typically be happening right now. So FDOT will have that shoulder open. That does help to ease congestion and keep it moving as best you can, but just be prepared that there are a lot of people on the roads right now. You got time. It's not as if you have a delay, it's not as if the storm's going to come tonight, but FDOT is doing what they can to ameliorate that and to be able to keep things moving as best as possible. Visit Florida has emergency accommodation modules on Expedia, Priceline, and Booking.com for those evacuating. These modules will continue to provide real-time hotel availability and lodging resources. We're working with the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association to continue to, as is standard in these emergencies, encourage hotels to reduce prices. Floridians who are evacuating because of the storm, they typically will offer a distress rate. I know a lot of the properties have already published that. Rosen Properties, Red Roof Inns, Alofts, La Quintas, Motel 6, Best Western, Holiday Inn, and you'll get a better rate as well as waiving, in most of those cases, any pet fees. So please bring your pets and make sure that you're taking care of your pets when you're going to those establishments. Uber, just like we did in Hurricane Helene, they are finalizing a code for free rides for those who are evacuating to shelters. We will give you that once it becomes live. I know that shelters will open once the evacuation orders take effect. Then the shelters open. And so you're going to see that happening a lot over the next 24 hours. The following counties will close schools beginning tomorrow, Tuesday, October 8th. Charlotte, Citrus, Collier, DeSoto, Glades, Hardy, Hendry, Hernando, Hillsborough, Indian River, Lee, Manatee, Okeechobee, Pasco, Pinellas, Polk, Sarasota, and Volusia. You can find your county's emergency management page for specific information related to your county at floridadisaster.org/counties. You will likely have county-specific alerts that will be issued by your county officials. This is right now a storm that is stronger than what any of the models envisioned just 48 hours ago. And in fact, even the models that said it would eventually reach Cat 5 status had it at a relatively weak Cat 5. This is a strong Cat 5. It has intensified very, very rapidly. And while every projection is that it's going to weaken before it hits the coast of Florida, we can't necessarily bank on that. This will produce major damage, whatever ends up happening, but certainly at the strength it is now, this is a really, really strong storm. And the effects of that, not just for the storm surge, but for wind damage and debris, would be really, really significant. So you have time today to execute that plan. You have time to be able to make sure that you and your family and your pets are safe. So please do that. This is not a storm you want to take a risk on. As I've said many times over the last day or two, we can't guarantee where this thing is going to end up making landfall. And it is possible even a very strong storm makes landfall in one part of the peninsula. If you're in a different part, 100 miles north of where it goes in, maybe it's not catastrophic in that area, but there's no way of knowing that. And I would say anything south of where the storm hits is going to have major storm surge, even 100 miles away. So that's going to happen. So we just went through Helene. A lot of people on the Sun Coast saw some significant storm surge. This has the potential to be much more significant than that and life-threatening. I mean, we had loss of life because of the storm surge that affected the Tampa Bay area with Hurricane Helene. I would imagine that this one would be more life-threatening in many different respects as a result of the strength of this storm and where it may end up hitting ultimately. So please take the appropriate precautions. You got folks on the local level. I've been talking with a lot of the counties. People have been ramping up for this. Everyone was on edge after Helene. Once this thing formed in a system, people have been working really hard. And I know they're working hard to get people evacuated. And I know everyone at the local level is going to be working hard to help any rescues that need to be done, help get people back on their feet. And there's a whole bunch of resources that are being amassed across all levels of government to be able to respond to this storm. We can't affect the track. We can't control how strong or how weak it gets. The only thing that you can affect is what you do.
Right now you're listening to Governor DeSantis give us an update now statewide on Hurricane Milton. We know a lot of you are worried about that. We want to bring it now.